Billikens fans, welcome back. It is the Midtown Madness Podcast with Zach Miller and Peter Hale. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, keep commenting, guys. It absolutely makes my day when someone comments about something we talked about, whether, it may not make my day, but I'll still appreciate the hell out of it if you disagree with me. So comment down below. Anything you want to talk about. It's season 5, and once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden. Two Men in a Garden is the perfect salsa to pair with a sporting event or post-game. The best part about Two Men in a Garden is that no matter whether your team wins or loses, it will satisfy your mid-game and post-game cravings just the same, just as well. They have you covered with salsa that's sure to elevate your snacking. Simple ingredients made fresh with a ton of flavor. Visit them online at twomeninthegarden.com to shop your favorite flavors and also learn more about Kitchen Hub STL. Follow them on social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter for the latest updates. Pete, senior night in St. Louis. This one had pretty much everything in it. It was never in doubt, obviously. 90-88 win in overtime versus Duquesne on Saturday the 8th. Wow. I really didn't like this game at all until the last minute and a half.
Wow is probably a fair way to put it, Zach. I got to say, though, watching this game, I was not really riding a lot of the emotional highs and lows that I have in other games this season. I don't know if it's because the stakes were relatively low. Like, yes, it decided what side of the bracket we would be on, but I think people were making fair arguments as to which side would be better, and I would never insinuate that this team would intentionally lose a game, and clearly they did not. That because they had every opportunity to, but for whatever reason, I was not, despite a couple text messages that maybe I got from you, I was not really feeling the strongest emotions that I have, certainly coming off that Dayton game earlier in the week.
No, I thought most of my emotions in this game, we're going to talk about Duquesne, was really like, it plays within the game that were bothering me. It wasn't so much like the score. You could have cut the score off. I did not I wasn't really first of all, I was at a trivia night. I'm sorry, Billikens fans everywhere. I'm a fraud. I committed to the trivia night. We won, by the way. No, not a big deal. But I was a fraud on Saturday night and missed the game, missed a home game, but was watching it during the trivia night, and I was annoyed with the score, but again, it was the dumb plays, the bad shots, the ugly turnovers, the weak shit that was going on in that first 38 minutes of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, hearing that you won a trivia night, Zach, I think is probably it makes me think it was maybe one of those Slumdog Millionaire situations where they just happened to ask you about the 10 subjects that you know about.
Hold on, here we go. It was there was a question about teen movies, high school movies, and it was about name the movie and then the high school which it's set, and I Slumdog Millionaired from Dogma, where Jay is talking about John Hughes movie set in Shermer, Illinois, and yes. He says the yes. That's why I'm not weird. And so I knew that the John Hughes movie in the category was set at Shermer High School. So I did kind of Slumdog on that. You
backdoored your way into that answer for sure. That's impressive. Yes. Impressive. To get back to our game. I understand what you're saying, and there was, if you're looking for ugly plays to get mad at, there was a lot here to certainly be upset about, and we will get into it. But I do want to start with Gibson Jimerson, Zach.
Yes,
senior night, he had a career high 35 points on a career high 14 field goals and set the school record for 3-pointers in a season. The way he's been playing lately is really special.
Yeah, it's Gibson Jimerson has fully and completely put to rest any argument that he deserves, that he doesn't deserve to be the all-time scorer in Billiken history, regardless of games played, regardless of seasons. The guy has gone nuclear. It's incredible. I don't think anybody could have predicted Gibson Jimerson being the leading scorer on this team. I don't think anybody watching Gibson Jimerson's first game as a Billiken ever. I don't think by his senior, I don't think anybody could have predicted it.
That he would be the
all-time. No, that he would be the leading scorer on the team by his senior year. That he would be scoring the most points per game of anybody on the team.
I see what you're saying.
I mean, this is a guy who was brought in as that sniper off the bench, that instant offense, and he's totally and completely revamped his game to the point where he is making shots that, in this game, he made a shot that I've never seen him make before. So he backed the guy in. He kind of kept switching.
Yeah.
And then he got fouled. He kind of threw a little bit and then got the foul and made the bucket. And it
wasn't a layup either. He was a few.
This was a mid-range jumper.
Right.
And he's doing stuff every night that surprises me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's playing his way into first team all conference right now. I don't think he's going to get there because it's a little late.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he's unbelievable right now.
Yeah,
save for the Dayton second half.
And you're right, and especially in this first half when he did make a few of those plays, like where he backed down the guy and made that little short jumper there. He had another and one. He had some really, really nice cuts on layups to kind of.
There was the Warlick dump to him.
Yeah, there were some really tough assists that he made assists.
An offensive rebound and putback, if I remember correctly.
A putback. I think he got fouled on that one too.
Yeah,
right?
he shot it and got his own rebound.
Yeah,
I believe.
And then what? You had another one, Zach, that you thought was the prettiest play of the night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really do a play of the game. We don't do that.
No.
But really, like you said, I thought it was the prettiest play of the night, and that was Kobe Johnson out in transition, drives the lane, dishes to McCottry on the left wing, who is cutting to the rim, and then he kicks it out to Jimerson for a wide open three, and that gives the Billikens 72. That seemed to be a small catalyst. I know it got Chaffetz Arena up and going.
It did, and it wasn't much longer until all of a sudden everybody was back down, worried that this game was over. But let's circle to the other big three. We had 22 from Robbie Avila. We had 17 from Isaiah Swope. So you see those numbers, 35, 22, 17. You go, okay, the big three delivered, right? It's maybe a little more complicated than that.
Yeah. I mean, they delivered eventually. It's kind of like the U.S. Postal Service. They didn't get there when it gets there.
Yeah.
That's really what this team has. It's such an interesting team, because they will go so long without playing well, any of them, and all of a sudden the game flips on its head and you think it's too late. Like, this is the fourth or fifth Houdini act this team has pulled.
Oh, easily. I mean, there were the three on the road that we had talked about, Davidson, UMass, Richmond. There was this one. There was UMass Lowell was kind of one of those too. I think we're missing one. So yeah, this is.
I mean, Grand Canyon should have been one.
Grand Canyon almost. Yeah, that's what happens when we don't pull one out. But
yes.
Illinois State was another one where we came all the way back and didn't win. So we've seen both sides of it, right? As much as we would like to say, they come back and they do this, and there were some games where they didn't. But yeah, it certainly was another one of those games. SLU was down 80-74 with 41 seconds, and I know some people started heading for the exits to beat parking garage traffic, but I don't think you can really do that with this team.
No, I am once again blaming Travis Ford. He gave this fan base and casual fans nearly 8 years of being fairly inept at making comebacks or holding leads. So this is PTSD, people.
Yeah, they're just so conditioned to not closing games out, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what happens. And at this point, Zach, I gotta wonder, maybe you're focusing a little bit more on the trivia at hand.
Oh God, yes. Oh, I think I shut my phone off at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not turned my phone off, but I stopped the game at this point. And then while I'm not watching, because all the good stuff happens when I'm not watching.
We need you to just not watch, I think.
I'm working on that's going to be a very big emotional commitment for all of you people. I mean, I might be
Zach.
Yeah. No. God, what? Don't give anybody any ideas.
Some have tried.
They have.
7 seconds later, Swope hits a three. SLU's then down 80-77. SLU tied the ball up on the inbounds and had the possession arrow. So now they've got the ball back.
This is where I turned the game back on.
Okay, good.
Yes,
luckily.
I turned it back on just in time to see this kind of. I saw the team like celebrating something, and then it goes to a timeout, and I had to double back and just see what happened exactly. And I mean, I had kind of figured the SLU got the turnover of some kind. So I knew we had the ball, but I was like, okay, just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in, it was.
Yeah, so this is where Kobe Johnson gets the ball to Swope. He hits a fadeaway three in the corner, and we're tied. And Zach, we've pulled a rabbit out of a hat yet again. It's now do or die. They just need one stop, right?
Yeah, I mean, Swope has some Tremaine Isabel in him, and that's about the one reason I have him and Jimerson right now are my two where that's my reason that we can go and win in Brooklyn or DC. Those are the two, like the fact that Swope can go off at any moment, and the fact that Jimerson is playing where his game is at gives me hope. I wish I could say the same about Avila. We'll get to that. But one more stop. Again, I am ready to be hurt. I am welcoming the hurt of a mid-range Duquesne jumper that they have been hitting all night. I was so sure they were going to hit one in this situation.
Instead, they get an entire possession where they don't get the ball inside the perimeter. And they held Dinkins, their leading scorer, to a three-pointer. He airballed it. It landed right on the line, which was great because if it had landed, an inch or two short and bounced, this thing, the clock may have worn out, completely. So SLU did wind up with another chance. Wasn't a great chance, but still, it was a nice little bonus to even get that extra opportunity at the end, I thought. And luckily, Zach, you were not hurt this time. You were ready to be hurt, and you were not hurt. In overtime, they traded a few baskets, burned a lot of clock. Duquesne was up 85-84 with 1:45 to go. Swope answered with yet another three to put SLU up two. He had missed one prior to that.
I want to circle back to that possession. The possession before Swope hits a three when Duquesne takes the lead. But go on.
So Duquesne missed at the other end. Swope found Avila outside. He hit it. SLU was up 90-85, and it was pretty much academic after that. The Dukes banked in a three at the buzzer, but it didn't matter. But let's talk about that possession.
Were there gambling implications on that?
I don't think so. I would like to think that we were greater than a 5-point favorite against Duquesne at home, but I don't. I don't care.
Then again, Vegas has they for some reason just know.
Yeah, I mean, they're good at what they do.
Yeah, Well, I think we're gonna get. We need to just get into the weeds.
Well, wait. You mentioned what was the play that you wanted to go?
Oh, we're gonna get to it within the problems.
I got it. Okay. All right. So then let's address the problems. Number one, Avila turned it over 10 times, right? Like this is the thing that jumps off the box score. He put up a crazy stat line that we'll get to the full thing, but the 10 turnovers, it's not that he was making the wrong read. A lot of times these were good looks, good passes. He did probably attempt too many difficult passes. There were times where there was one where he kind of came around under the basket and threw it out of bounds, and it was just kind of like, I don't know what you're doing there, guy. Yeah. But a lot of these other ones, he was just kind of missing. Like he was long, he was short, he was off. He was just kind of missing on passes in a way that we normally don't see out of him, which I thought was odd.
Yeah, I think the frustrating thing with Avila is that like you watch him and it's extremely easy to watch him and his easy giveaways, whether they be bad passes, getting bumped off the ball, losing the ball, just so these possessions where he just loses, he turns the ball over, he takes a bad shot. It's easy to watch the way he plays, the way he reacts to things, his build. Unfortunately, like it's easy to say he doesn't give a fuck. It looks like he doesn't give a fuck. Like I am not saying that Robbie Avila does not want to win. I am not saying that he does not care. What I'm saying is that it's very easy to take everything he does when he's doing bad and say that looks like a guy who just is not all here.
I understand what you're saying, and this is the kind of comment that I've heard a lot from more casual or neutral fans. No, you too, but like a lot of casual or neutral fans who kind of see him for the first time, especially in the context of a game that's not great, right? Like I'm thinking about my brother's friend who joined us at George Washington at that game where Robbie really got outplayed by Castro on GW. And he was kind of like, hey, I know who this dude is. I've heard the hype. He kind of didn't look great out there. Is he sick today? Like, what's going on? He didn't look like he was trying hard. And I always have to be like, he's just kind of like that, right? Like, he just doesn't. He's a very unorthodox player. And the emotions and the physicality and everything about him is just unusual. And I've never held it against him that I think something looks off because I just have to accept the fact that he's just a different looking player.
Yeah, I mean it's another game too. Like him when he throws the ball in, he's very casual with it. And at least one time in this game, he definitely stepped over the line and is extremely lucky that they didn't call that.
He does a very distinctive step thing when he'll bend his knee up and start to bring his foot out of bounds. If I were a defender, I might like try and jump on. Yeah,
they have many times. It's happened
like try and jump times. Back and get him to stutter step and like put his foot down, right? Because then he would be over the line, not on the line as we learned, but over the line. I will give you that. I don't love that motion, but that's what he does.
I don't want to. I get this is going to come off as pajama type stuff. But like, you lose to Dayton the way you lost in just an awful comeback against, and you go to Arch Madness, you sit courtside or whatever, wearing Indiana State gear. I get it; those are your boys. Like but like, dude, like you're not doing yourself a lot of favors here, and it's easy to point to stuff like that and say, "What the hell? Like, are you here, or are you somewhere else?"
I think I fundamentally disagree with you on that one. I mean, like he's got friends on that team.
I get it. I get it all.
The coach was an assistant when he was there.
The fans hate him. They hate him.
Who cares what the fans think?
I'm just saying.
I mean, that's like
no. I know. I get it. Look, all I'm saying is it's very easy for someone to look at everything he does and ask, "Are you with us?" Like, I know he makes the plays. I know he finishes off this game, but like, we're gonna continue to mea culpa any game where we win by 2 when Avila turns it over 10 times. Like, I just don't like. Are we just gonna forget that he almost cost us the game, and somebody else had to save it and give him another shot at winning the game? Are we like? At what point are we just like, come on, dude? Like,
I understand all of that. I think he's also been awesome in some
no,
games.
yes, yes,
So
yes, he has.
I just,
but it's
I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of other players who have off nights, and we don't necessarily question everything about them.
But I mean, we're talking about guys making money now.
We are, but if Gibson Jimerson goes 2 of 12 or whatever, like he has, you don't go, is he into it? Does he care?
Because that's not his reputation.
Right? Like it's not his reputation. But how do they get a reputation? People like you question it.
We were effusively praising Gibson Jimerson for rounding out his game, playing a role above and beyond.
Yep.
My point is like if Gibson Jimerson is going to put that kind of shit on the floor, I expect that from everybody else. I expect that sort of effort and that sort of in-game. That's Gibson Jimerson's senior night, and you gave up like 7 terrible turnovers. A senior night at home for a guy who's played more games than you ever will play in college. I'm not saying, Rob, like that's just a mathematical fact, right? Like the guy who has carried this, he's come close to carrying this program for the last 4 years. Like you have to show up for him. Like those turnovers are awful. Like what is going? Like that's not even they weren't even extra physical. And I think Avila has had a hell of a time trying to cope with the physicality in the A10. But like it's not even that they're playing good defense. It's just he looks away for a split second, and the ball goes off his foot. And you not necessarily exactly that, but that's the kind of stuff. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So
I understand that. What do you think about his overtime performance here? You know, a mixed bag as always, but you can't deny that that shot.
I mean, look, his clunky errors I'm mentioning, like an example being his post move with like less than 2 minutes to go in overtime, and he backs in, gets doubled, loses the ball on the shot. Duquesne gets the ball, nails the 3 to go up, or nails a 3 to go up. And then thankfully Showtime on the next possession, he bangs home a 3, like saved your ass.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Gave you a third gave you a third chance to come through.
It was an extra possession in there because Swope hit the first one and then Avila hit the second one, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it was 85-84, and then Swope made it 87-85, and then he made it 90-85, and basically end the thing. Because at that point there were, 30-ish seconds left.
Yeah.
So, look, all of those are fair points. I just, I feel like his demeanor is something that just takes getting used to, and I don't question how much. I don't question how much he likes it. I thought it was funny after the game, wear shirts as he's giving, comments to all the seniors. He said, we got to see a lot of special things tonight, talking about like Jimerson and what he did. And he's like, we got to see Robbie set an NCAA record with 10 turnovers. Just completely razzing him, and it's one of those things like, he couldn't let it go in the moment. And Robbie addressed it in the post game press conference as well, like just how he's got to be better and stuff like that. And I know guys say that, but we'll get into the rest of his game too, Zach. But while we're on the sort of the negative subject here, Swope missed his first 6 attempts from 3. We already highlighted all of his makes. It was 3 of the last 4, including big one in overtime and 2 big ones to get us to overtime. So it's we've seen this a lot from him lately, where he's having an off night, he's having a quiet night, and then all of a sudden you get to absolute crunch time where you're almost mathematically out of this game, and he brings you right back into it.
Yeah, I was going to say we have like the streakiest team in the country, but I don't know if it's streaky as much as like spurty. Like it's more spurts than streaks. Like all of a sudden we're a Ferrari when we've been running like a Ford Pinto for the entire game.
Was it Stu or was it Rockio who in the first half like highlighted all of the runs, and there were basically five runs in a row of 7 or more points. And like we would have one and they would have one and we would have one and they would have one. And it does seem kind of like we don't play like a clean 40 minutes generally. We have before, I give a lot of credit to games like that Loyola game, for example, recently, but there are just a lot of stretches of really, we can't score, we can't stop, and then we turn right around and make these brilliant shots. And I gotta say, the shooting percentages lately have been really, really good, overall in the context of a game. It's just within that game, there are 2 to 4 minute stretches where you're banging your head on the table.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre to watch a team play awful for 35 minutes. You're in the game. Well, you're down 8 with 2 minutes to go, and all of a sudden they turn it on and pull the game out. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever watched.
Yeah. It really is. SLU got 16 points outside of the big three in this one, which, we've seen worse, but it's still not enough. You got 7 from Kobe Johnson, 8 from Amari McCottry, 1 from Dylan Warlick. Look, nothing against the way these guys played, but we just, it doesn't seem, I think it was Rockio who tweeted out, it just doesn't seem sustainable to have all of the production. At the time, it was all Jimerson and Avila, who had basically scored almost all of our points at pretty late in the first half.
McCottry continues to play well for a freshman, and Kobe remains as steady as ever. Just not really doing anything majorly wrong, not anything incredible. But that's kind of what you've been asking from him the entire season. He's been delivering.
Yeah. He's coming along. He's making big plays. He was involved in some important plays in the overtime, and as we kind of predicted a couple weeks ago, there's a real minutes shift that's happened with him and Kalu, and we'll get into that. Another issue, though, is they turned it over 18 times in this game and forced it just 11 times, leading to points off turnovers 26-15 in Duquesne's favor.
Yeah, what did you think about the turnovers in this one? Obviously you have quite a few from Avila that were unforced and kind of SLU beating themselves. But, was Duquesne's defense, much better?
I think there were a lot of times where I tweeted it out during the game is Dixon is a guy who was kind of one of the matchup problems for us. Well, number one, I think you just got to say Duquesne was a way more athletic team, like more bounce.
We haven't been out athleted in a while.
Yeah, we really, this was a game where the athletic disadvantage, which Shirts will just flat out say over and over, but it was very stark in this game. Mm-hmm. So I think they took that for granted a little bit. And then they also took for granted Dixon's length, which created a lot of loose balls. And not all of those became steals, and he didn't end up with all of them. But I think he was kind of a little bit disruptive on the defensive end in this one. So I think there are times where they just look a little not, what's the word, a little passive with their approach to passing, and because of that, a team like Duquesne can kind of shoot into those gaps or get their fingertips on a ball and kind of create some mayhem. But I guess when you look at that 18 number, that's 10 from one guy and 8 outside of him, and if you take Swope away, the rest of the team really wasn't turning it over.
Yeah. It's also, I think this team doesn't really do great moving. They move fine. They cut okay, but they're not a great off-ball movement team when it comes to coming to get the ball. If a player gets stuck, they're not that quick to react. On inbounds, I feel like we are very, very slow to the ball.
I agree with that. Yeah, they're not good at bailing out their teammates.
I feel like every time I looked up and watched the game, turned my attention to the game, Robbie was turning the ball over, or Duquesne was getting the easiest offensive rebound I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, it was almost surprising to me to see that 11 rebounds is what Duquesne had, and it was 8 for SLU. It was it felt like the disparity was a lot bigger than that. And the other thing that surprised me was that those 11 offensive rebounds for the Dukes translated into just 11 points on the second chance, and SLU got 15 second chance points off of their 8 offensive boards. I don't disagree with you at all, though. It just like watching the game, it just didn't feel that way, right? It didn't feel like the offensive glass was not an issue, because it really felt like it was.
Oh, God. It felt like they were timely.
Yeah. And that's a really hard thing to quantify.
Yeah.
Is it just, we've talked about this in the past where we talked about like officiating, for example.
Yeah.
And it feels like some of the strangest calls we've seen have been at the most backbreaking moments. Yeah. And a lot of, the offensive rebounds can kind of feel that way too, right? They make it into their hands, and you just feel it. It's like it's just painful.
Like it was. There were a few of them. Some of them were not necessarily timely, but just backbreaking. How they kind of happened. Were like, I think there was one where Kalu Anya was literally the only guy there, and he knew he was the only guy there, and then all of a sudden he wasn't, and he no longer had that rebound, and you're just like.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, it was just frustrating. The defense was like November, December Billikens.
I saw somebody else say that this is the worst defensive effort we've seen from them in a while. I don't remember what the time period is. I had to look back and see what I thought was the worst. I kind of wanted to make up my mind, like, what's the worst defense this is the worst defense since fill in the blank. And I really had to go back to, at Loyola Chicago wasn't great, but I don't think that was it. I think I would have to go to the VCU game on January 14th. They scored 78 and, outscored us by 16. That one got to me for sure, but I think you could make a case like at Illinois State, maybe San Francisco is up there, UMass Lowell, Wichita State, so I think those were the games. Santa Clara being the other one. It has to be one of those games. But what those games have in common is that you're right, they were a while. I mean, like that. Even the VCU game was January 28th. It's about 6 weeks ago at this point. This team has really evolved on defense, and we've mentioned it, but I just don't think that's fully appreciated, like just how much they've come along. So to watch Duquesne get whatever they wanted in the mid-range was bothersome.
But I mean, that is kind of the Shirts defense, right? I mean, it's entirely possible that was the plan. Just they're going to take mid-range jumpers, and eventually they're going to stop making tough mid-range jumpers. And I guess they kind of did, but I don't know.
Well, you almost think of it in terms of his offense, right? Because like we're looking to only score at the rim or from three. So you kind of, do we take the mid-range for granted at the other end? But I think here it's where you have those athletic disadvantages at all 5 positions that it becomes meaningful. So Shirts after the game said they did a great job of getting there, meaning the mid-range, and hitting those pull-ups. We're not athletic enough to trap, so we drop. You give up a lot of space. And that's the kind of stuff we were seeing Duquesne make, right? Like those little stop and pop, those floaters, a lot in mid-range. Shirts has insisted that you can't win shooting mid-range like Duquesne did, but they certainly came close, Zach. And I do wonder if you're right, if this was like they've got a couple guys who can shoot, but they can really get to the rim. So keep these guys from getting to the rim. Yeah. And because of that, we're pretty far back. And rather than attack the rim and draw fouls or whatever, they decided just to have a go from mid-range, and it mostly worked.
I mean, Duquesne had 72 more shots attempted than SLU. 43 of those were inside the arc.
Well, they had 72 total. It was 13 more than SLU. But yeah, that's a huge number, a huge number overall, and a huge number inside the arc.
That's why I don't read the statistics. You do.
Well, and it's also telling that they shot 50% from the field. They were 34.5% from three, which it's fine, it's average. 86% from the free throw line, which is good. But 50% from the field overall is solid. They ended up with 5 guys in double figures, and I just we warned about it ahead of time. Is they've got a lot of guys. They can go pretty deep into their bench before really feeling it.
Yeah, it's funny that the team with less depth, though, pulled out the OT win. Not exactly what you would have expected.
When you see our guys all in the mid-30s in minutes having to go to overtime, you never feel great about that, right? I mean, that's bench points 35-9 in Duquesne's favor.
I'm shocked.
Underlines that issue. They can go like 9 deep before you really see much of a difference. I guess they don't have the Jimerson and the Avila and the Swope at the top, but they also they don't have a lot of guys who just haven't played before on the bench. Like they just have a solid rotation, overall, and certainly we saw that come into play here. You're right, though. That's a really good point. Having to play 45 minutes instead of 40. Somehow the team with the overworked guys pulled it out.
It kind of, this roster for Duquesne kind of feels, again, a lot like those Majerus teams, in that you had, 10 guys that you had 2 full teams that were good and well drilled and could come in at any moment in any situation.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a fair point.
Let's accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative.
Oh, you got to sing that next time.
Absolutely not.
Slew put up a slash line of 593 from the field, which is fantastic. 444 from 3, you'd take that any day. A little under their average from the free throw line, though. So the efficiency really couldn't be much better. It's just a matter of giving yourself more opportunities or giving your opponent fewer. We already mentioned we were minus 13 in field goal attempts in the game.
This team really is super efficient when they do get their shots. But I do want to ask if completely eliminating the mid-range does hamstring them against defenses. Like eliminating a spot on the court that you're absolutely not going to try to score from. Does it make it easier to defend in some way? Like, I know that the percentages are there. Like, mathematically, it is sound decision making. But totally eliminating it, I don't know. I feel like we're not taking opportunities that are there. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to overthink this one.
For the most part, we just haven't needed it. I think there are times where you'll see it come late in the shot clock, and that's fine. You saw it on Swope, had a sort of turnaround step back, little, the
Jimerson and one.
Yeah, really, really a nice finish there. Yeah, the Jimerson and one. So we did see it deployed a few times successfully in this game. It does feel like, though, with him coaching, if you're gonna take those shots, you better hit them, because otherwise those become problems. That's a fair question, Zach. I think somebody who's a little more schooled in the X's and O's.
Ball knower.
Yeah, I mean that's. My instinct is just to say, if that were true, they would just add it more, right?
Yeah. I guess. I
can't break down all the reasons why.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about Avila's stat line in this one.
22 points on 8 of 15 shooting, 4 of 7 from 3, hit both of his free throws, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 4 fouls, 10 turnovers. It's a really funny thing, Zach. I mean, like how much have we already ripped on him for those 10 turnovers? And then
was that really a record?
No. No, it wasn't a record. I think he just really had to give him a hard time with that, because so many of those
should have.
Yeah, I mean, so many of those were Robbie's doing.
Yes,
put it that way.
I think we just need better from Avila than 10 turnovers. You have to be secure with the ball. I've been begging for probably a more conservative approach to the offense, just because of the way we are playing defense. Of course, a conservative offense, like I said, is only a luxury afforded when you're playing good enough defense. And the defense in this one certainly was not what you would characterize as good.
No, and I think that's a fair point. I still think no matter what kind of defense they're playing, they attempt too many high degree of difficulty passes. There
Yes.
was a moment in the first half, Zach, where we were up by like 9, 10, 11,
Yeah.
somewhere in that range. And then a few of those kind of difficult pass, bad turnover. I think Avila was on a couple of them, led to Duquesne getting right back into it. And yeah, then it became a game of runs back and forth, but nobody really got that big number of separation after that.
Right.
And so even when you look at the score and think like, okay, the defense is working, the offense is working. Although I don't know if that was ever an argument in this game, given that there were so many points right out of the gate. But yeah, I just think I don't know if I would say necessarily a more conservative offense overall, but certainly a more conservative approach to our passes, like the higher, the more difficult passes. We have way too many of those, and I don't think they always need to make the most difficult play, especially when you've got guys like Jimerson who are generally making things pretty easy on you and giving you the right play on a platter. You don't need to make the home run pass every time.
Um, yeah, I agree with you. I was trying to give them a little more credit. You are more hardline on this one.
Yeah, they just, the passes they just need to get smarter about. Avila, Swope, Jimerson, and Johnson all played over 40 minutes.
It would not be it would not be a Gibson Jimerson senior night celebration if he did not play over 40 minutes. This one was destined for overtime when it was decided he would go the distance.
Yeah, that's right. You know what was kind of curious to me is given how he was playing, just how little he got the ball in the last few minutes of regulation and then in overtime. I think he only had like one shot attempt during that stretch, because I remember there was a point in the second half where it's like he was 14 of 19 from the field, and that was his field goal record. He was at 35, which was his points record, and then it was quite a few more minutes that ticked off, both in regulation and overtime, and it was just like, okay, he just wasn't part of it. Now, Avila and Swope got it done. That's fine. But I thought like, wow, like the guy who's been more reliable the entire game was taken out of it. Maybe Duquesne deserves some credit for that, but I don't know. Maybe he was just gassed and not able to make all the sort of off ball movements that he otherwise would.
Pete, you introduced yourself and us to the Amari McCottry double-digit minutes trend, and I would like you to update us on that trend.
He played 29 minutes. Anya played just 12. So we already had that trend where he's starting to take those minutes more and more and more. Most significantly, I think, in this game. But yeah, this is another example of McCottry playing double-digit minutes and SLU winning. But Zach, I don't think that streak held if we skip back to Tuesday night's game.
Yeah, we're gonna head back to when the McCottry minutes, a double-digit minute streak ended with a 75-67 loss at Dayton Tuesday the 4th. This is gonna be an endurance trial emotionally to get through this one. I am scarred by my experience watching this game, as I'm sure you are.
Imagine being there in person.
Yeah, no. We'll get to that, Pete. We'll get to that. Don't spoil it.
Yeah, it was really a tale of two halves, though, Zach. I mean, the first, you kind of felt like a continuation of the Loyola game. SLU was defending with purpose, protecting the ball, moving the ball. Jimerson was on fire again. Swope was in on the act this time. Robbie was playing great. All three of them together accounted for all 41 of SLU's first half points. And in the meantime, SLU held Dayton at 28. The 13-point halftime lead wasn't SLU's largest. They led by 15 right before that. But being inside the arena, it was really dead in there. People around me were saying things like, "This sucks." They were, the boo birds weren't out, but they were shaken. They were really rattled. And I guess, we made the mistake of taking a lead for granted on the road. And you just can't do that. It's coming out of that first media timeout. SLU went up by 14. Dayton responded with a 12-0 run, and it was just a different game after that, Zach.
Yeah, it went a little something like this. Missed or shot blocked, Johnson. Turnover, Johnson. Missed 3, McCottry. Jimerson missed 3. Swope missed 3. Jimerson missed 3. Swope missed layup. In that stretch, the Billikens also had 3 fouls, gave up 2 offensive rebounds in that stretch. There's a name I don't see here, and it's pretty glaring, Pete.
Yeah, Robbie not getting touches during this time period either. I don't know what was going on here, Zach, but whatever Dayton talked about at halftime, they completely took SLU out of their offensive game. And they started to kind of look alive on the offensive end at the same time. So it could not have swung worse for SLU at this point. I just look. I didn't rewatch the game because I couldn't. It's too painful.
No.
But yeah, this was this part of the game where Dayton got all the way back into it and then took the lead was at that point I just knew. I was like, we're done. That we're not coming back from that. And I just kind of sat there silently the rest of the night.
There was a problem on the glass in this one.
Yes, SLU gave up 5 in the first half, mostly in the first 10 minutes because like they kind of settled down and pulled away from Dayton in the first half. But Dayton wound up with 13 on the game, which became 14 second chance points. After those 5 in the first half, and they were all early, like I said, I kind of thought they had figured it out, right? But it was 8 in the second half, and that was really, really, really frustrating.
I can't believe I'm reading. Am I reading this stat right?
Yeah, you are.
Go ahead, because I don't think I can translate it.
This was the second time this season that SLU against a D1 opponent had more field goal attempts. They had 62 to 61 for Dayton. I don't quite know how that's possible, especially when we just mentioned that we gave up all those offensive rebounds. But SLU only turned it over 9 times, just 3 of those in the first half. It's kind of a confounding game. And I wonder, Zach, when you look at this, like, how do you, and I've got some ideas here, but how do you go from up 13 at half to losing by 8? It's a 21-point swing. How do you explain that collapse other than just like saying, well, they went on a couple runs? It just feels like there were so many problems here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, we talked about not running the ball through Avila. I think that's part of it, which was working in the first half, and they did in the second half, right?
Mm-hmm. I can't explain that one at all. I mean, like you said, whose name was so conspicuously absent from that stretch? Who wasn't getting touches? And it was like, well, who's the guy who's the offense is supposed to run through?
It feels like this front court is such a shit matchup for us.
Yeah, although I mean, imagine if Dayton had like a Deron Holmes here, right? The Latang, I think he is a matchup problem in this game, and we'll get to him a little bit later, but I agree with you on that point for sure.
Yeah. What did you see? I just was catatonic at about this point.
When it started to sink in what was happening.
Yeah, well, it was like the SIUE game, but different.
So in this one, it was like, we got out of the offense that was working, and maybe that was a little more pressure and kind of a change of scheme on Dayton's part. But because of this, you see shot quality, shot selection, both decrease significantly. The 3-pointers weren't as open. They weren't as in rhythm. So you had guys who were making shots in the first half just not take as good a shots in the second half. SLU started missing layups inexplicably. I don't really know what was going on there.
Was there some hand-to-arm contact? I don't know. I felt like Dayton was getting away with a lot of contact at the rim.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, I think they just played more physically in general, and then the rest didn't necessarily call it a lot differently. Yeah. We went 15 of 29 in the first half, 11 of 33 in the second. But on the defensive end too, Zach, I thought they got a little sloppy, particularly in transition. They were really tight with switches in the first half, but guys just got free more easily in the second half, and you saw Dayton make a few threes. They didn't go off, like crazy from three, but they definitely started making them all of a sudden, and the whole arena just felt different.
Yeah, and I think SLU really leads the nation in alley-oops against.
Oh boy, it feels like it sometimes, doesn't it? Well,
Yeah.
we get matched up with like a big, long, springy front court player from another team, and we've got nobody who's going to stop that, right? Nobody's going to go up in the air and get in his way. Nobody's going to get a finger on that ball or anything like that. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair point. But they also just weren't as physical in general, right? Like we weren't winning loose balls. We got beat on the glass. It was the effort, the energy stuff that wasn't happening.
Yeah, man. Dayton. I mean, the UD arena whistle is real, Pete. I mean,
oh my God, yes.
It felt like Dayton was just as physical as ever and was rewarded for it, and SLU was not really physical and punished at times.
Yeah, that's kind of a fair way to put it, because I think, like I said, they were way more physical in the second half than in the first half.
It feels like they reach in on every play. Like the moment a SLU player gets the ball, Dayton is reaching in.
Yeah, and I'm trying to.
When did we stop calling that, among other things?
Yeah, I'm trying to look at. So Dayton only had 11 fouls in the entire game. SLU had 15, so they didn't call many to begin with. And granted, neither of these are super physical teams, but you would have thought, like, as Dayton changed their approach in the second half, maybe the refs call it a little tighter, but they just didn't. It was that thing, Zach, where like, was this the game where it just felt like, yeah, SLU was about +5 in fouls for most of the second half, right? So I remember it was 7-2 and then 8-3, 9-4. It ended up being 10-6 for the half after a couple calls late, but it didn't really matter by that point. Dayton shot 14 free throws to just 3 for SLU in the entire game, despite points in the paint being even at 25. So it's not like we weren't taking it inside, right? You already talked about we missed more layups, but a lot of those were heavily contested.
I want to talk about the dorkiest player in the Atlantic 10, Zed Key.
He's such a goober.
He's so like he celebrates a basket as though he was planning it for like a week. He looks like he had been thinking about how he was going to celebrate as he's doing, like, because he's such a dork, man.
He really is. He's like, he kind of has the like the Grammatica brothers hitting a field goal. He's
yes,
one of those guys.
He thinks he looks in the mirror and sees Dennis Rodman.
Yeah, and really, what he is
Elmo. He's Elmo.
He's Elmo, and he's a disappointing transfer, right? Like he came from Ohio State. He was supposed to be the answer in the front court, and he's played his way onto the bench. Yeah. And he did have some big plays in this game. I will grant him that he had a good game overall in this one, but it's undeniable what he gets away with in terms of pushes, hooks, holds. We saw it in his highlights, moving screens. It's everything. Like he plays like there are just not even refs watching.
Yeah, there's no. This is Vietnam. This is the Vietnam Basketball League. I don't understand how he gets away with grabbing people as they run by him.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's obvious, it's visible. He gets away with fouls on screens just like Obi Toppin did, just like Deron Holmes did, just in a very different more like dorky way.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he's incredibly, he's a legend. He's legendarily intimidating in his own mind. He thinks
Yes.
he's the most intimidating big in the Atlantic 10.
I think you're probably right.
And he's actually just Piglet.
Yeah. he thinks he's a big like enforcer, like an old school enforcer. Yes. And yeah, he's just a dweeb who for whatever reason is not getting these called. I can't explain it. I could see it from where I was, and I was in the 400s, and it was just like I would see something and then look on Twitter and see like you or somebody else mentioned.
Oh, I was
like,
on it all night.
All right, I'm glad I'm not just like seeing things up here, but man, oh man, there were some calls in this game that were just baffling. The one where Bennett dribbled right out of bounds on the baseline, there was minimal contact. I can't even remember who the slew defender was at that point.
Just call the goddamn foul.
Yeah, the ref was right there. He called it a Dayton ball and no foul. The only choices in that situation were a slew foul, which would have been a pretty light one, or Dayton out of bounds, and they would have booed you. But like, to give them the ball right there with no foul was just like, you could see it in the refs kind of hesitate. He did like this thing with his arm where he looked at the guy like really firmly and then kind of slowly took his hand and pointed that direction. And like you could tell he knew he blew it, but he just had to commit to this bad call in that moment. And it was, I reacted. The people all around me started giving me a rough time. And I'm like, we all saw what just happened right there. Like, what he did. But there's no winning that argument in Dayton.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know what to take from this McCottry hit. I don't know what the fuck happened. I guess Key stuck his hip out. I have no idea. It doesn't. I didn't see really anything, but like when you have a guy like Zed Key who is as dirty as they come on screens, I'm gonna say he did something. Like not necessarily like Brad Marchand or like it wasn't like he didn't swing at him, right? He didn't hit him below the belt on, like he didn't throw knucks at him.
Well, I was just going to say maybe it was a little, but set a screen and give him a little below the belt.
I mean, maybe. I just don't. Again, I don't think that's how Zed Key's dirty. I think he's more just like he does these things that not me. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like it's
this is one where I will admit I'm not really having seen it in real time, but I know SLU fans weren't happy about it. And
I just wasn't happy. I think a lot of people weren't happy that the whistle wasn't blown. And like that's the rule. That's fine. But Pete, you had a take on this.
On the Zed Key play?
On the whistle that they would have blown it. Didn't you say they would have blown it dead if it was a Dayton player?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I was the one to make that point.
Oh, but yeah.
But
sorry, absolutely. If I stole that from somebody and attributed it to Peter, I apologize.
Yeah, no, if that's absolutely true. If there were a Dayton player who like crumpled up on the floor after like, a SLU player had gone right by him and who knows what happened, the gym would have lost their minds.
I mean, the thing about that to me is like I know that it's the rule, but McCottry's in like him crumpled over, not moving, like that's somebody in distress.
Yeah,
like that's a player. You have to see if he's got like some like his testicle ruptured or some shit, right? Like you could have like an internal like situation. I don't know. Like maybe I'm overreacting. And again, I can see fully why they didn't blow the whistle. But like, if you're gonna blow the whistle for like head injuries or like just like players in distress that need medical attention, like that seemed like one of them just from where I was sitting. Because the longer McCottry did not move, the more concerning it was.
Yeah. You gotta blow it dead. You just have to. And I know it happened in front of the Dayton bench and not the SLU bench. It's probably the worst place it could have happened on the floor for that reason. But you got to blow it dead. Look, some other notes on this game, Zach. It's one thing to cool off from hot shooting in a first half, but it's another to allow 47 points in a second half. Those added up quickly. For Dayton, I don't have any excuses there. That was just unacceptable.
Yeah, it was. I just don't know what happened. I was like, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, a nightmare. And and look, we get on the refs and everything, but it's just like when you're watching your team kind of blow it at the same time, you feel like Dayton's given every benefit of the doubt from the
100%.
officials. It's just like it's a compounding factor.
It
Right?
is. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, Swope, Jimerson, Avila combined for 61 of 67 points from SLU. Swope had 28 on 11 of 17 shooting, 5 of 8 from
He was
three.
phenomenal.
Jimerson had 23 on 8 of 18 shooting, 7 of 17 from three. Do I have that? No, it was 7. He was 7 of 15 from three. So
Phenomenal.
they combined for 12 of 23 3-point attempts. No one else on the team made a 3-point attempt. Avila had 10 on 4 of 11 shooting, 0 of 4 from three. Most of his offense came in the first half. I also thought Jimerson, who had 7 rebounds at halftime, was well on his way to another double-double. He ended up with just one more. And speaking of rebounding, SLU got beaten by 15, 43-28 overall on the glass. Another heavy sigh on that one, Zach. Anya and Johnson had quiet nights. Johnson failed to score. Anya scored just once on 2 attempts, although he did have 5 assists. I know that's part of his game. I was a little concerned about Johnson here because after being SLU's most consistent player for a decent chunk of the conference season, he kind of seems in the past few games to be more content sliding into a supporting role while the big three get more involved. I don't know about you, but I'm more comfortable with Anya taking on a specific role because he has to be.
Yeah.
The issue is he has to be more of a rebounding presence. But I think you and I both would like to see Johnson just kind of be a little more assertive.
Yeah, like we said, McCottry played bigger minutes in this one, but it wasn't his best game. But again, another game where the Billiken, another good performance for McCottry, I think.
It was 4 points on 2 of 8 shooting, 3 turnovers, just 1 rebound.
A lot of those were him going to the hole, and I thought getting fouled.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I mean, like if we're looking for second half non-calls, I think he was on the receiving end of those. And I guess when you're a freshman road team player coming into UD Arena, that's just not going to happen for you. Unfortunately, he did have a team worst plus minus of minus 16. Swope was next at minus 12. Avila and Jimerson were minus 8, and Anya and Johnson were at 0. Warlick was the only one positive at plus 4. We also said coming into this game that Cheeks and Santos were the Dayton players to watch out for. They led UD with 17 and 13. But Zach, I thought you could argue that Latang was more valuable than Santos. He had almost as many points in 16 fewer minutes. He was 2 of 2 from 3. Both were backbreakers. And he created matchup problems all night. You're on mute. And tell us a little more about the Frenchman.
I really like Latang. I can't wait for him to transfer to Ohio State and get the fuck out of here. I'm so glad I'm never gonna have to see Zed Key again. Santos is a floppy little bitch. He flops more than Shulga. I think Sully on Twitter called out Shulga for flopping. Santos was just egregious in this game at flopping. Pete, this loss was devastating in a lot of ways.
Well, a win meant the inside track on a 3 seed, right? A loss meant a probable 6 seed at the way that things were looking at the moment. And after a 4-way tie in third, 6 is as low as you can finish. 5's a little disappointing, and that's really all SLU had left, unfortunately. The other thing is in the A10 tournament, an extra game as a 6 seed, will be against a 3 seed that will be better rested. Or if you're a 4 seed, or if you're a 5 seed, it's against a 4 seed that's better rested. They get that extra day of rest. So it's not just having to play the extra game. You have to play a team that's better rested. You just have to. Everything about it sucks. You lessen your odds. You give yourself more work. And I like us a lot better as a 3-win in 3-day team than a 4-win in 4-day team.
Pete, this loss, most importantly, means what?
SLU has still not won at UD Arena since 2014.
That is all on Chris May's watch. I'm just gonna say that. Watching this game on TV, Pete, knowing that we had not beaten them in so long, and then losing the way we did, was an experience. It was an experience on the level of the horror movie Get Out. Except like I at least that movie was like entertaining because it's a movie. For you in the arena, it's like a full on snuff film.
It's brutal, Zach. You know, the only, I think I've missed one game at UD Arena in the last like something crazy, like 17 years or so. I don't know what.
Did we win that game?
Well, it was a COVID era game, so no, we didn't. It was a game that was like not. I don't know if it was not played in front of fans or limited tickets, or it was whatever the pandemic. It was the year after their 29-2 season, so it was the shortened season, whatever. I think that's the only time I missed a game up there. So I have been at all of these losses, right, since 2014. I was at that win in 2014. I was at some wins in the years before that. We spoiled their senior day back-to-back years at one point.
Yeah. Brian Gregory, thanks.
Yeah, oh yeah, that was the Brian Gregory era for sure. Yeah. So to be at now, this is a loss every year. I go up every year. It doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday night like it was. I go up every year. Get a little night to myself, get to go to the arena, and then drive home in the pouring rain on Tuesday night, thinking about this brutal loss, and having to deal with the horror show that is Dayton's fan base. This was a game where I genuinely, like, after the what I've done a couple seasons recently is there might be 2-ish minutes left and I'll just hit the stairs at a whistle, and head out, maybe watch the game from the concourse before getting out the door or whatever, knowing that the loss is coming, right? In this one, I actually kind of just sat in my seat and let the rest of the fans around me file out because there were a couple of guys in particular who were kind of jawing at me, and I was just like, I'm not dealing with these guys like all the way out of the arena. I just kind of sat there and waited and just kind of like had to gather my thoughts and like just kind of take a deep breath and get out of the place before getting in any kind of confrontation or something like that. It's really horrible to have to deal with. And look, we haven't won there since 2014. It's over a decade. It's 11, 12 in a row, whatever that is now. I guess that's 11. It would be one thing if we could say, well, whenever they come to Chaffetz, they lose, but they've won some games, right? Like when you look at this series now, Zach,
it's lopsided.
All-time series has slipped to 30-44. That's SLU's record. We're 14 games behind now. Dayton has won the last 4. They've won 10 of the last 12, and this one got me the most. They've won 19 of the last 24 games, right? Those 24 games that have come since that 2014 win at UD Arena. 24 games, some of those in the conference tournament, always a home and home on top of it. 19 that they've won. That's an unacceptable number. It has to change. They have to figure this out. It's beyond embarrassing at this point. We can say whatever we want about Dayton as a basketball program, the fans, the school, the city. We can mostly be right in our criticisms and in whatever we say about them, but we cannot deny the actual results of these games. And SLU has to fix this now. And I know you want to say this all happened on Chris May's watch, and that's true. But like, we've got a new coach in there, right? Like Travis Ford never won at UD Arena. He was a terrible coach on the road, never won big games. But we've got a new coach there, and this was a game we kind of had in hand in that first half, and really coughed it up in the second. And look, I'm still all in on shirts, and I love the direction of the program, and all of that kind of stuff needs to be said. But I can't bear us losing this game anymore. I just can't. I can't take it.
It's got, what did he say in Angels in the Outfield? One more loss.
I don't know what he said because I haven't seen that movie in probably years.
You need to rewatch it. You've got a boy at the right age. That
so
what are we
many.
doing?
I have seen like almost no movies since my kids have been
Oh
born.
my
There's so many good
God.
movies out there that I've not seen. I'm not gonna watch some dumb '90s.
Stop that! Stop that! You stop that right now.
I will grant you that there are some young actors in there that we didn't know were going to be.
I mean,
Adrian Brody.
Yes, Matthew McConaughey, Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
We did not know
Danny Glover.
We did not. Well, but he was
that's the joke. That's the joke.
Christopher Lloyd was.
Chris Lloyd. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh my God. Wait, that one guy that's in every movie or show. He's a bad guy and everything. He's the pitcher.
I don't remember.
Oh God, it's the guy that Neil McDonough. Neil McDonough's in it randomly.
Right.
Anyway, fix this shit now.
Yeah. Fix it.
Let's go around the A10, Pete. Tuesday the 4th, VCU 71, Duquesne 62. Wednesday the 5th, George Washington 81, Fordham 58, George Frodson 69, LaSalle 62. St. Bonaventure 73, UMass 72 in a nail biter. As if anybody was nail biting over that game. St. Joe's 91, Rhode Island 74. Loyola beats Davidson 82-72. Friday 10, Pete. I
don't even know what to make of this, Zach. Dayton 79, VCU 76. Even after we lost, I didn't see this coming.
I also didn't see Phil Russell getting hurt, though.
No, I didn't either. Do we have a status update on him, by the way?
No, but I'll be interested to know, being as we are on VCU's side of the bracket, whether Phil Russell will be available for the tournament.
That's a big difference maker.
Their offense was anemic without him.
Yeah, and because they had the win over George Mason, they still could take this loss and hold on to the 1 seed, but they do now had to share the A10 regular season title with your buddies, George. Meanwhile, on Saturday the 8th, Loyola 74, UMass 51. That clinched the double bye for Loyola. They're the 4 seed. That's who we'll see if we win this first game. St. Bonaventure 64, Davidson 61, LaSalle 81, St. Joe's 74. Fran Dunphy's last game.
Dunphy magic, baby.
It was a good one. The governor of Pennsylvania declared it Fran Dunphy Day. Just good vibes all around in the arena, formerly known as Gola Arena. Rhode Island 86, Fordham 67. Man, what a whimper Fordham has gone out with this season. And then George Mason 64, Richmond 60. Yeah. This is the one that helped GMU clinch a share of the A10 regular season title after trailing most of the game. Richmond loves to blow leads, man. SLU, Dayton,
among other things.
So many top third teams in this league. They have led like wire to wire and choked it right up. Pretty incredible.
Let's talk about your survivor picks, Pete.
Yeah, so here's how this is going to work now, Zach. I got the last one right, which we knew last week because I got it in on Friday, and this was a long week. It went Friday to Saturday, so we had an extra day in there. But now our picks shift to the A10 tournament, and you got
to be picking against Fordham, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be interesting to see what people do. We do have to pick every day. So all 5 days we have to pick. Unfortunately for me, Zach, is because this was kind of a chalky year in the A10. I've seen a few of our fellow, contemporaneous A10 pundits say that this has been chalk mostly. Like after kind of a chaotic week or two to start the season, it really settled in nicely. Like we were arguing over, wow, is it just going to be a bunch of 500 teams all the way up and down?
Yeah.
But teams kind of settled into who they were after that, and you wound up with more or less the top five that you thought it was going to be.
The SEC has been 500 this season in conference.
It happens to the best of them.
I know.
Happens to the best of them.
I know.
So it has been interesting to see that shake out. And unfortunately, because of that, 27% of entries have not had a blemish yet, so I'm only one of 83 who are still in the top bracket. I was hoping by now, if one of us were still in it, you'd be looking at a dozen or so, but it's 83 now. 83 are in the second place bracket, and then 141 have been eliminated altogether. So I'm still in the top quarter or so, but man, oh man,
don't you have
I got to
two?
win 5 in 5 days.
But don't you have two picks? I mean, you have a mulligan still. You're still in the winner, right?
You're still in the winner, but like that's still 166 people who are still in the first or second place. So like now you really have to get it right.
Yeah.
And the picks do reset. And yes, because you have to pick on day one, it's the pillow fight games.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting too. And I got to think, yeah, you're right. Everybody's going to be looking at like Fordham, for example, as a team to pick against, but it also means the team you're picking is bad.
Yes.
Richmond and Davidson is the one that kind of comes into our game. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do there yet. I need to take a look at it. I guess I have until what is it, Tuesday that it kicks off?
Wednesday.
Okay. All right. Wednesday.
Yeah.
We don't have that gap day anymore. Yeah.
Speaking of the Wednesday night pillow fight, let's preview the tournament. Wednesday, March 12th, 10:30 a.m. I'm going to go with Central Times for all you people. You're welcome. Davidson and Richmond, the 12 and 13 seed, start at 10:30 a.m. on USA Network. They know drama. The 10 and 15 seed, Rhode Island and Fordham, kickoff at 1 p.m. also on USA. And then UMass and LaSalle in the 11-14 game will tip at 3:30 p.m. or thereabout, depending on the prior game's length. Thursday, Bonaventure and Duquesne in the 8-9 game. That'll go at 10:30 a.m. The Billikens will play the winner as 5 seed of Davidson and Richmond at 1 p.m. on USA. GW awaits the winner of Rhode Island Fordham as the 7th seed to play a 5 p.m. game on USA. And then St. Joe's is a 6th seed at 7:30 p.m. on USA. They will take on either UMass or LaSalle. Awaiting in with the double bye will be VCU. Will wait the winner of Bonaventure and Duquesne. Loyola will await the winner of St. Louis and Davidson or Richmond. George Frodson will await the winner of Rhode Island and Fordham or GW. Jesus Christ. This is very difficult to say. This is like I'm having a moment. Dayton will take on the first game on Peacock, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Dayton will take on the winner of either UMass and LaSalle against St. Joe's or St. Joe's.
Yeah, and then the semifinals will play out on Saturday, and the final will be on Sunday, Zach. Yeah. As usual, one of the last games in before the brackets are announced.
Noon p.m. and 2:30 start times for the semifinal, and a 1 p.m. start on CBS. That semifinal round will be on CBS Sports.
So Zach, so what did I say? 83 people still left in the first place bracket. How many of those do you think are going to pick Rhode Island over Fordham on the first day?
81.
Your other choices are Davidson, Richmond.
I like Davidson over Richmond to get weird.
I think I would go with chalk in all three of those games. UMass, Davidson, Rhode Island. I don't know how high my level of confidence is, except I'm probably going to go with Rhode Island, right? Because Fordham has just been so bad lately. But just the fact that I think, and maybe I'm overthinking it, I think probably 80 other people are going to pick that game. Mm-hmm. Maybe just to hedge my bets, I do take one of the other ones and go a little bit riskier to try to win the thing. But I don't know. I have a couple days to ponder that.
I don't think it necessarily matters who you take.
Out of those three games?
I mean, I think you just kind of got to go chalk. You just got to go, I think at the end of the day, everybody's going to do the same picks, right?
Yeah, which is why, if by some chance Fordham beats Rhode Island, if I'm sitting on Davidson to beat Richmond and they do, I'm now in a much lonelier first place bracket, and that first place bracket pays out $3,850. So, that'll probably be split multiple ways. But
Yeah.
If something unlikely happens in the first round that weeds everybody out, you're going to get a bigger piece of pie.
Let's finish up men's basketball here. We've got a visit, and we're going to close the loop on a player.
Marquise Clark, 6'2" point guard from Whitney Young in Chicago. He was at SLU this weekend and took in the Duquesne game. He got a SLU offer back in September. And we tweeted about him at the time. Closing the loop, Xavier Wilson, an E in front of the X on that name. That's why I'm saying it that way.
And he goes by Zay with a Z.
He goes by Zay with
Figure
a Z.
that one out, please.
Everything about it, just a little off, but we don't have to worry about it because he committed to K-State on Thursday, but he did have a SLU offer, which is why we bring it up. And then, Zach, we've got a little bit of news on a former SLU assistant.
Yep. Congrats to former Rick Majerus assistant Al Jensen. He was named the new head coach at Utah, his alma mater, this week.
That he was, Zach. That he was. And I think a lot of people kind of saw that comment. It feels like that was rumored for a few solid days before it happened.
To be honest, I was not paying attention. My eyes were only on Two Men in a Garden, as they are. Like, I focus so much on salsa that I don't pay attention to what Utah is doing. Utah doesn't deserve salsa. They don't deserve Two Men in a Garden.
Out in Utah, I bet it's all mild salsa.
But
anyway.
you know what, though? Our listeners in Utah, we don't mind Utah. They can get $9.99 shipping, flat rate, Two Men in a Garden.
They sure can, and I would take advantage of that. Go for something a little spicier, a little something more exciting, I would say. Yeah. But this, Zach, I got to bring up Phrase, F-R-A-Z on Billikens.com. Just out of the blue, I quote his post on Billikens.com. Completely off topic, but it has to be said. Two Men in a Garden mango habanero salsa is the best I've ever tasted. And that, completely unprompted. We did not bring it up. We didn't say anything. Mm-mm. Just a guy, a SLU fan, posting on a message board about something completely off topic. I don't even remember what the
It's not off topic for us, Pete.
It's not off topic for us. It's always front of mind. It was in a thread about the transfer portal, just to give you an idea of how off topic it was.
Two Men in the Garden will never enter the transfer portal. They'll always be there for you.
You're doing a lot better job of tying it in to the theme or whatever I'm saying, I guess.
Yes.
But anyway, that's it for this week. We just wanted to let you know we aren't the only people saying this. We aren't paying friends and family to say it for us. This is a guy we do not know personally. At least I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't.
And he is another SLU fan posting about this. So Phrase, however you want to say your name, Fraz. I don't even know. Tell him we sent you. Tell him Midtown Madness sent you. Go get that shipping. Pick up those products in stores if you're in St. Louis, and enjoy Two Men in a Garden.
Pete, let's talk about women's basketball. I guess we're gonna have to, once again so much men's basketball talk that we're gonna have to get into the women's basketball more extensively once both seasons kind of end. Well, I'll just go with end because I can't think of a better synonym.
Yeah, no, you're right, Zach. We will do kind of a full, I don't want to call it an autopsy, but we will do a full.
Yeah, it could be an autopsy.
Kind of snapshot of the women's basketball season later, but we do have 3 games to cover this week. And before we do, we should mention that Ken Calhoun was named to the all defensive team.
Certainly not the all ball security team.
No. If it was like a net, right? Like a net offensive defensive
team, a plus
like
minus rating.
Turnovers versus assists, turnovers versus like steals, like however you want to compute that. Her own turnovers would have removed her from it, but I'll put it another way. She probably put someone else on the all defensive team.
Yes.
The way she handles the ball.
A 60-50 win over 15th seed St. Bonaventure on Wednesday the 5th. There was a time in this game, basically the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter where SLU looked to be running away with it. But outside of that stretch, it was a pretty even game. Again, not what you want to see against a Bonaventure team that is completely rebuilding from scratch. I think they play like 6 freshmen. But yeah, SLU did a good job of maintaining the lead despite not adding to it. They mostly did it at the defensive end, holding the Bonaventure to 9 in the fourth quarter. The lead was mostly double digits, but got down to 6 late in the third before SLU got a few straight buckets. Calhoun led with 20 points, going 7 of 13, 0 of 2, and 6 of 6 with 2 assists and 2 steals, giving her 100 steals on the season. Also 4 fouls and 3 turnovers. She passed the 1,000 point mark for her SLU career. Peyton Kennedy scored 13 and went 3 of 7 from the outside. She was in the starting lineup and played 28 minutes. I don't know what the hell is going on with Peyton Kennedy's minutes. I don't like it. I mean, you could maybe say she's playing through pain or injury or working her way back. I don't know. But her lack of minutes have been suspect, considering she was incredible for you last season. But she became SLU's 5th all-time leading scorer. Imagine, again, if she'd stayed healthy all year and kind of been in the lineup. I don't know what the deal is. Anumo Anyumele came off the bench and had 10. Key stat in this game is turnovers. The Billikens forced 21, coughed it up just 14. 5 different Billikens with 2 or more steals. They led in the points off turnovers battle, 18-13. They got 16 points off the bench compared to 0 for the Bonnies. Man, do both Mark Schmidt and their women's coach have the same philosophy. Bonaventure is stinky. The last place team. They are bottom of the barrel of this conference. But at least it didn't end the season. And they took on 7 seed UMass on Thursday, Pete.
Yeah, they did, and they came away with another 10-point win. 67-57 was the margin. Here's another revenge game, Zach, because the way Bonaventure beat SLU earlier this season, which I can't explain that one. UMass beat SLU 72-55 in St. Louis in the second A10 game of the regular season. Brooklyn Gray was not going to let that happen again. She had a huge game, 30 points on 12 of 17 shooting, 2 of 5 from 3, 4 of 5 from the line, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, the most points scored by a Billiken women's player this season. Peyton Kennedy had 13 again, crossed the 1,500 point mark for her career the day after she became the 5th all-time scorer. Tiara Simon had 11 rebounds to lead SLU. SLU held UMass to 6 points in the second quarter and 7 in the third. There's your ball game right there. UMass made a bit of a run to make it interesting in the fourth. You had to know that was coming. SLU had the lead up to 20 early in the quarter. UMass got it to within 8 a couple times, but it was just too little too late. Thankfully, there's not a 5th quarter. This was not the prettiest game. UMass had a whopping 28 turnovers, and SLU, not to be outdone, coughed it up
Jesus Christ
29 times.
Does women's college basketball mid-major have a traveling problem? Because there were so many travels in this game. I know the Billikens have a traveling problem.
Yeah. Traveling, I don't know. Maybe they call it tighter in the women's game for whatever reason. Turnover numbers are higher. That's just that's just true when you get to this level. Unfortunately, Yamani McHale though on UMass had 12 turnovers herself.
Working on her Robbie Avila era.
There's proof that 10 is not the record across men's and women. So SLU got out rebounded by 8. They gave up 16 offensive boards. They got only 6, and UMass ended up with 9 more field goal attempts, but luckily SLU held them to just 33% of the field from the field. This was an example of ugly win is still a win. Yeah. So they got it, Zach, but unfortunately,
ugly loss.
Straight shot at a revenge game after George Mason dominated SLU at Chaffetz on Education Day, 80-53 was even worse this time, Zach.
Yeah, 30-point loss this time, 87-57 against number 2 seed George Mason. It was awful. It was 6-6 with just under 6 minutes left in the first quarter, and then the Billikens went 5 minutes without scoring. Ended 21-11. It was never close after that. Mason dominated just about every facet of this game, plus 16 on the boards. shot 43, 39, 87 compared to 34, 16, 84. Shot 37 free throws to the Billikens, 13. Scored 28 points off turnovers, verse 14. Scored 12 second chance points, verse 6. They're doubling up points off turnovers and second chance points. They got 16 more points off the bench. They had 49. Billikens had 33. The two top scorers came off the bench for the Billikens. Anumeli with 15 and Glanton with 10 to go with 8 rebounds. The starters only combined for 24 points. Yeah. Just to recap the A10, George Mason won.
Yeah.
Yeah,
73-58 was the final over 4-seed St. Joe's, who had upset number 1 Richmond. Mason, chalk on that side of the bracket. They beat 3-seed Davidson. The only upset on that side of the bracket was SLU over UMass. Mm-hmm. So overall, the results here were not surprising in the tournament. Just Richmond losing to St. Joe's was kind of the only thing. And it happened at the buzzer, and it happened on a shot where it looked like maybe she traveled. So that was kind of an unfortunate way for Richmond to go out. So now they wait and see, Zach, because there are a few teams in this in this league that actually kind of were looking like at-large teams. So
yeah, I thought you were talking about the Billikens for a tournament. Nope.
No, Richmond at 27-6, 11-1 on the road. Their quad one opportunities weren't huge. They were 1-3, but they really took care of business in the other ones. So they're a 33 net ranking. Mason is in. They were a 45. They were a little more bubbly, I would say. St. Joe's and Davidson are probably out. St. Joe's was 52 in the net, Davidson 83. But I'm hoping that this can be a 2-bid league again with Richmond at 33. But unfortunately for them, they just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah. Let's talk baseball, Pete. Run us down the Tuesday and Friday games.
Yeah, so Tuesday, the Billikens lost 9-7 down at Missouri State. Riley Ifrig hit a 3-run homer in the top of the first, and SLU played with a lead basically all the way to the bottom of the seventh when Missouri State knocked home 5 runs. Ifrig led SLU with 3 hits and 3 RBIs. He was a triple short of hitting for the cycle. Ian Blazier, how are we saying that, by the way? Blazier. Okay, you're right. I like that best.
Laser.
He hit a solo shot in the second. It was another staff game for the Billikens, midweek game. They used 7 pitchers. Preston Salazar, the 7th of them, took the loss. On Wednesday, they were supposed to play Southern Indiana, and that was canceled. But on Friday, they started a 3-game series against South Dakota State at home and narrowly won this one, 8-7. They were down 6 in the bottom of the 9th. Brendan Stressler hit a 2-run homer to walk it off under the lights. It looked great on the replay. Really nice lighting.
They need to bring that lighting back. They need to upgrade Chaffetz's lighting to do that, because currently it can't do that. Yeah.
It looked fantastic. Austin Newegg and Ethan Sitzman also homered in this game. Owen Kelly started and gave up 4. Charlie Weber pitched 3 innings of relief and gave up 3. Chase Miner pitched the last 1 2/3, getting the win in the process. Great job, Stressler, walking it off. That was a great game. But Zach, there was not much drama in these last 2 games.
No, that walk-off must have broke the Jackrabbits. 12-4 win against them Saturday the 8th in the second game. Hayden Moore hit a 2-run triple in the second, scored on a throwing error. Brendan Stressler and Max McGuire hit back-to-back jacks in the 5th. SLU really blew it open with a 5-run 8th. McGuire led SLU with 3 hits, Stressler with 4 RBIs. Ben Cherico started and got the dub. And they finished off the series sweep with a 17-2 win in 7 innings against South Dakota State Sunday the 9th, a beautiful day in St. Louis. This was all Billikens from first pitch. SDSU got one on the board in the top of the first. The Billikens answered with 4 in the bottom of the inning, including a 3-run homer from Riley Ifrig, and things got worse from there for the Jackrabbits. The craziest stat of the game is that SLU's 17 runs came on just 9 hits. San Diego State walked in 4 runs, and another scored on a wild pitch. The Billikens had 15 walks in total. Josh Cunningham started and got the win. They are next up for the Bills. They are looking at a game on Tuesday the 4th. That's to be decided. It could be Southern Indiana. We're not sure.
That's my best guess.
Yeah. Then they welcome St. Joe's to the Billikens Sports Complex for a 3-game home series to kick off A10 play. Pete, a solid kind. I don't know. Not so great weekend for softball. Initially I had seen that they beat Purdue here, but the rest was not so good.
They got one good result. I would have liked to see them get at least one more out of that event. They started out, though, on Friday the 7th. They stopped at Champaign-Urbana on the way over to West Lafayette, and they lost 5-0 to Illinois. SLU could only muster 3 hits and 3 walks all day in this one. Illinois' first run came when a player stole home, actually. Taylor Hockman gave up 3 in the loss. She was pulled for Isabel Royal, who gave up 2 more. The good news, Zach, was on Saturday, their first game against Purdue. They won 8-5. Carson Janney's solo shot kicked off a 6-run 5th inning that gave the Bills all they needed to beat the Boilermakers in Game 1. Jane Konecki's 2-run double really broke that inning open. SLU got 10 hits from 9 different players. Janney was the only one with 2, and Royal, huge, got the complete game win with 9 strikeouts, spreading out 6 hits and 3 walks over 7 innings. They stuck with her after a 4-run 3rd inning, and it paid off. So I really like, given a player who's been knocked around a little bit early on, they gave her a little confidence boost in this one. But unfortunately, the second game on Saturday against Bradley, they lost 5-4. Bradley used a 3-run 5th inning to take a 2-run lead, and SLU could only respond with 1 more. Taylor Hockman started and allowed all 5 runs. Scout Gallagher was scoreless in relief and even hit a home run to help her cause, but it was too little, too late. Mallow hit another home run, a solo shot. She continues to mash the ball, but we didn't get much out of her on Sunday, Zach, as unfortunately SLU dropped 2 more.
Yeah, 2 more losses. 7-0 loss against Bradley Sunday the 9th. Royal started, took the L. The Billikens only managed 3 hits and a walk. Nothing really to talk about in that one. 4-2 loss against Purdue. Purdue avenged the Saturday game. Yep. Scoreless heading into the 5th, and all 6 runs in that game happened between the 5th and 6th innings. Janney's RBI single put SLU on the board, and Purdue responded with 3. The Billikens got one back with an RBI ground out from Kate Profit. Purdue responded with another. Anna Christ got the loss in this one in 5 innings pitched. Next up for the Bills, they will take on Illinois again. Wait, no, that's not next. We already talked about that. They're going to play some games this week. We're gonna channel Guy Phillips to show people what it would be like if Guy Phillips hosted the show.
What they're actually going to do, Zach, is play South Dakota State at home on Tuesday. They're going to go to Western Illinois on Wednesday, and then they're going to travel to Dayton on Saturday, Sunday for a 2-game series.
The tennis, the women beat Chicago State 7-0 at St. Clair Tennis Club Thursday the 6th. The Billikens swept both the singles and doubles competitions, although CSU did forfeit in the 6 singles and 3 doubles. Madison Hill, Angelina Joao, Lizzie Barlow, Nicole Ferreira, and Elizabeth Choate all won in straight sets. Next up, they will take on Bradley on the 18th. Pete, we forfeited this game? Why?
I don't know, Zach. I went to see what happened with men's tennis against Chicago State, and it just says L forfeit. There's no recap. There's no results. There's nothing, but it looks like we forfeited. I don't know why. Now, this is coming off what has not been a good start. They got rolled the couple matches before that against Eastern Kentucky and Omaha, and most others that they've played this season, except for Oral Roberts. I don't know what's going on, but maybe they just didn't travel for whatever reason.
I mean, it's at St. Clair.
It was at St. Clair. So I really don't know. But they're supposed to play on Friday, March 21st at Butler. So they have a little bit of a break here. Maybe they decided to go on spring break early. I have no idea.
I mean, look, we just saw Cal Poly drop some non-revenue sports. UMSL just got rid of track and cross country. With revenue sharing coming around, guys, we're 2 sports over the minimum.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening here, but
the other factor is there could be an upcoming law change to college students from overseas.
Yeah.
So that is our entire tennis program almost. So I don't know, Zach. Don't know.
Women's soccer. Oh, sorry.
Women's forfeit looks bad.
Yeah, we've got some great news on the women's soccer side.
Hannah Larson will be returning for her 6th and final season in the fall.
Some people are calling her Hannah Jimerson.
That was a race to that one.
Yeah.
She's coming back. It is great news. Stu wrote a nice piece on her and her journey. And we do remember. You and I are old enough to remember when she had that knee injury and things were looking a little bit questionable for her future, but she's been a fantastic player and what an asset to this program. And I know she and Shields have a really special relationship. So we lose a lot. This team has lost a lot in the last year, a lot of key players. So the fact that she's coming back for a little bit of continuity is massive.
On the men's side, Jeremy Abinell is transferring to San Diego State. Mason Hart will be the starting goalkeeper, and replacing the A10 goalie of the year is not an easy task. This sounds like it was a mutual understanding, no hard feelings type situation, and seems all good. But
you do wonder. It does, and you do wonder. You're the conference goalie of the year. You're at a program that's at least always competing for tournament appearances. You have to wonder what that's all about. I don't know.
Well, that's going to do it. Thank you all for listening. And Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.